Welcome to Boat Training Online. I'm Shawn Pollard, and today we're going to build some routes, however you say it. But before we get too far into the weeds here, I want to share my philosophy. It doesn't mean that you have to do this, but I think it's fair that I share how I have done things most of my life, and you can use it or not. But whenever I get to a new harbor, I always build routes to the harbors near my home port, and like an onion, concentric rings out, I build routes to each one of the harbors until there's no possible chance that I'm going to go to this one or that one. And you may say to yourself, well, you're a first responder. You have been a first responder most of your life, so that makes sense. And I will concede the point. Yes, you're right. However, you may have more in common with me than you think, because you may be the first responder. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you've taken your dad out. You guys are going to go boating and, I don't know, fishing or whatever you do, but you're having a great time. You've been out 3 or 4 hours, and you're a ways out, and all of a sudden he starts developing chest pains. And I mean, the classic signs of having a heart attack. He's got pain going down his left arm, and now your stress level is going to go right up here with a medical condition. I mean, it's your dad, you love him, you don't want anything bad to happen, and you need to get him to help. But your home port is way the heck back there. You call 911 and or the Coast Guard, and they say we can have an ambulance if you take him into this harbor. Well, if you've done your homework and you've done what I'm suggesting, you're going to be, even if you haven't been in there, you're still going to be familiar with that particular harbor, because as you're going to see, we're going to really expand out the harbor. We're going to be laying these routes out so that they make sense, and your stress level to get him into that particular harbor is going to go way down. I can't do anything for you on the medical condition, but we can do something for you on this. And this could be anything. It could be a prop strike, a bee sting and somebody go into anaphylactic shock, fish hooks. How many fish hooks have I seen in my life? You know, somebody gets stuck with a fish hook. There are all kinds of things that can happen, and you may have to go in someplace that you're not overly familiar with. Not to mention that you're going to get a lot more experience with your chart plotter. The more you do this stuff, the more comfortable you are going to be with building routes. It is a perishable skill, but the more you do, the more comfortable you're going to get with that piece of gear. And our goal here is to make memories that are going to last a lifetime. And if you get with your spouse and say, hey, I just laid out 2 routes for a harbor down the way. What do you say this weekend we take the kids down and go get an ice cream, or go out to lunch, or maybe there's a really nice beach there, or whatever. But now you're going to explore, you're going to use your boat. Okay, this stuff, to me, it makes a lot of sense. So let's get into the meat and potatoes here. All right. So I've kind of laid out a little chart. It's going to have all the good stuff in it. We're going to start right here. Now, in my last video on buoys, I said red right returning from sea, unless you're in Australia. I got roughed up by a couple guys from there. I love you guys, man. I appreciate your comments. We went back and forth a little bit, and I completely didn't know that was the way it was. Australia and New Zealand have been on my bucket list for a long time, and I hope I get to meet you guys one of these days. So appreciate it. But here in America, we're going to do red right returning from sea. And when you're going to build these routes, you want to do them outside. You don't want to go, and I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but you don't want to go from the boat ramp out. You want to go from sea and go to the boat ramp or go to your dock, because the person who laid this out, this is how they did it. And your numbers will on your buoys will progressively get bigger as you go in. So we have red and green go between. That was another little rhyme there on the last video. So this is a DR. This is when you start a route, it's going to put a dot in here. You can change the colors on your routes. For some reason I always put them in red, but you can do whatever floats your boat here. But notice how I've got them in the center and right in the middle. So we're really gonna hit hard on visual references here, okay? Now this route that we're gonna build is going to be for going in and coming out. Going in, we'd want to stay on the right hand side of the channel, but going out, again, going out would be on the right hand side of the channel. So I recommend just putting it right in the middle. If you are in a meeting situation with another boat, you move over to the right, they'll move over to the right, you pass and then get back on your track line. Okay, now this is going to be our first leg. Whenever possible, you want to have, like this, you want to have your buoys off of your beam. And I have another video on different positions on your boat. Your beam is 90 degrees off the center line. So center line and center. Sailboats, you guys usually have your pilot house in the back, so it's a little different for you guys, but most recreational boaters, wherever the steering wheel is, it's usually going to be pretty close to the beam. So you have a visual reference here now. When you get close to this buoy, we're going to make a turn. This is going to be our second leg. So you have that buoy off your starboard beam, and you can see it as it's coming up. You start making your turn, and we have another visual reference, this number 5 buoy. We're not going to use this buoy for anything more than looking at it. It's a visual reference. And let me just say this. From the time the Vikings started boating, or the Asians, whoever put the first boat in the water, we have been using visual references to find our way around. It's much easier if you can build your routes with this in mind. I'll give you a case in point here. I have a point of land with a lighthouse on it. That lighthouse is 75 foot high. So the earth is a sphere, okay? When you're here and you're going here, the curvature of the earth, you can't see it until you get closer. But you stick something 75 foot high, now all of a sudden you can see it. That you're defeating the curvature of the earth. So when you're steering your boat, or when you're making these routes, keep that in mind. Towers, windmills, church steeples, anything that's up in the air that you can utilize for finding your way around, you want to do that. We've got this lighthouse. We're going to steer on that lighthouse until we get closer. We might be able to see the land going into the water. Now we're going to click over 10 degrees to the left. We're ultimately looking for this buoy, but you're never going to see that buoy until you get closer. But you will see the lighthouse. You will see the land going into the water, and as you get closer, you'll identify the buoy. These are the kind of things that I really want you to look at. When you're zooming in on these harbors, look for stuff like this. You know how things work. If there's a jetty tower, if there's a big tower on the end of a jetty, you're going to see that a ways out. Much easier than you are a buoy that's only 4 foot out of the water. Okay, I hope that's making sense to you. So visual, everything's visual, okay? So now we're going to go, this is going to be our last leg, and we're going to be inside our harbor. Okay? If you If you continue to get into boating, there's a couple things that I'm going to guarantee are going to happen. You're going to get stuck out at night one of these days. You're going to get stuck in the fog one of these days, and you're going to get stuck in rough weather. And if we can do things to mitigate the stress of those situations, it's all the better for you. It's a much better boating experience, okay? So if you noticed, all of these buoys are lit. You're not always going to be able to do that, but the whole point of this video is to point out things that will make your life easier. This dock has a light at the end of it. When I am going, I'm leaving, it's almost dark now, and I can go down this track line. Again, with the chart plotter, your position is always fixed, which I absolutely love, and I think I've made that point clear. But let's get old school here a little bit. Let's go beyond just using the chart plotter. You're going to have this light right off your stern all the way down. You're not going to steer on that on number 5. You're going to take number 5 down your starboard side because we're returning to sea now. So you're going to keep that flashing green. It's a visual reference now off of your starboard side. And you look behind you and you've got this flashing white. Life is grand. You get here again off of the beam. We're gonna alter our course to port, and we're gonna head right for this red buoy that's also flashing. But if you noticed, I have a lighthouse there too. So not only do I have the red flashing, I have a rotating light on this lighthouse, and it may be red, green, whatever sector you're in, or most of the time they're going to be rotating white lights. But I also have this green buoy directly off of my stern. So from a visual point of navigating, you have some really, really good things going on here. And this is what I'm challenging you to do when you start building your routes. Look for things that I'm talking about. Don't just put some lines in and call it a done deal. Build these routes, put some effort into it, and do your homework. I guarantee you when you do this, it will become a habit, and life is going to be so much better, man. It really is. I love doing this. I love when everything comes together, and that's the way it rolls. Okay, and then you go out here. You got your red and green go between, and you're back out to sea. Couple little points here. Sometimes I think that new boaters will drop a waypoint, and they'll steer on that waypoint. And there is a time and a place for that. If you're in open ocean or you've got a really long leg and that's how you're gonna roll, I don't have any problem with that. But be advised, when you drop a waypoint and it says steer to waypoint, it will take you over rocks. It will take you over land. It's like the crow flies, okay? So be aware of that. Again, there's a time and a place, but when we're talking about going into a harbor, you want to build your routes. If you can kind of grasp what I'm saying here, there's a lot of effort that goes in here. You know, you can do this in your driveway. You could do it at the dock. Grab your favorite adult beverage or a cup of coffee and build these routes and do it. I'm going to give my partners some credit here. I did all this stuff, and I'm not the most tech savvy guy in the world, and for some reason we had to go back to factory settings, and I lost every route that I had built, and I didn't know about the SD card. If your plotter has an SD card, man, if you're going to do all this work, back it up on that SD card, just in case you do have to reboot it or whatever. So that's it. This is a lot of fun too. You can have a lot of fun. It's going to make your boat a lot more user-friendly for you and your family. When you have the confidence to go into some place because you've done all of this, they're going to enjoy the boat a lot more. You're going to be able to do a lot more. that restaurant, that ice cream, that beach, whatever. So have fun. I think that I've got everything covered here pretty good for you. I think you should be able to go out and start building some routes and start using that boat. If not, let me know. I've had some fantastic questions. I've had some fantastic comments. I love you guys. We're up over 400 subscribers, and we're just going to keep doing this thing, all right? All right, I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by.